Okay, let's get started. Good morning. Welcome everybody to session 2 of this 3-part webinar series on getting started with EdgeRater. Session 1 was last weekend, and we looked at, you may or may not have been there, you may not have seen the video, but I'll show you where the video is. Setting up symbol lists and data providers, running, scanning templates, viewing charts, sorting and filtering reports, and adding stocks to your favorites list. And there were a few other things thrown in as well for good measure. So that covered quite a lot, but a lot of basics in order to just get you up and running with the software. And if you haven't seen the video recording, then you can go to YouTube/EdgeRater, and all of the videos for EdgeRater are in here, and they will appear under the uploads, and you'll find it there. Getting started with EdgeRater part 1 of 3. A little trick in here is once you've got the video loaded, if you look at the description and the show more, you'll see there are various time codes in here, which is basically an index into the video. So if you're particularly interested in running templates, because you know everything about setting up data, you can just click on where it says running templates 2639, and you'll go right to that section. So I will do that for this video as well, and the one next week. So that's where they will all appear. You'll also get an email that is sent automatically by Zoom one day after the webinar, so tomorrow at 5, which will also contain a link to the recording. But if you don't see, or if you want to get access to the recording before tomorrow at 5, I say 5, it's 5 my time, but that would be 9 a.m. Pacific time. So yeah, if you want to get it before then, you can just go and check in the EdgeRater YouTube page. But it's likely to take a good few hours after we finish today, because I have to download it, do a bunch of editing, kind of zoom into different areas of the screen, and just make sure it's a good recording. So it can be a bit delayed. Right, so yeah, so today we're talking about exploring more templates to find stocks meeting defined criteria. This is a getting started series, so we're not getting into real, we'll go into some detail, actually, quite some detail, but it is a getting started series. So if you've been with EdgeRater for a while, you may have seen some of this information before. But if you're brand new to EdgeRater, this will be very useful for running templates and viewing reports. Next week, we will look at doing trade simulations for backtesting, and also look out in the future for other emails, which will come to you if you have signed up for the mailing list. And those emails, that's normally where I will announce new webinars. And one I have planned for after this series is finished is about some work I've done analyzing moving averages. So it's about, it's titled, What's the Best Moving Average? But it's really about some backtesting I've done too. And the results will probably be quite surprising. But just look out for that one. That will appear in your email inbox as long as you continue to be a mailing subscriber. And in order to subscribe to EdgeRater emails, all you have to do, I mean, everyone that's here is probably already a subscriber to the emails, but if you go to edgerater.com, and you may have unsubscribed in a mail, and you might want to resubscribe. So you can just go to, if it's your first time visiting the site, you'll get this little pop-up here where you can subscribe to the newsletter. Or if you've been to the site before, go down to the very bottom, and there's a subscribe to our mailing list where you can type in your email address. Okay, so very important to do that. That's where most of the new information will come. And also, if you are on the YouTube channel, please do subscribe to the channel. And also, if there's a video that you find useful, also please click on the like button. That really helps with Google rankings and ratings. So if you find that you like it, please do click on that button. I know a lot of people just look at the video for information, but if you interact a little bit, it really does help. So yeah, so thanks for that. All right, so today it's all about exploring more templates to find stocks meeting defined criteria. Now we're back in here. Yeah, so there's a few templates that I wanted to cover that really are sort of, I would call them fundamental templates that people use most every day. I certainly use these over and over again. But it also allows me to show some interactions with the templates, sorting and filtering, which we did last time. But this is something, you'll find out some new information here. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing is always look at the good, the bad, and the ugly template and run that against your chosen symbol list. My chosen symbol list normally is the list of CBOE weeklies, because I know that's a very active list of stocks with good liquidity. But just for fun today, I'm actually going to run this on the list of the All USA list, which is a 7,767 strong list of stocks that trade on US markets. So I actually ran this before, so I'm just going to go over to the reports of viewer, but you could hit run. It does take a few more seconds than just running on the 600 CBOE weeklies, but this will show us some things that are useful to look at every time you come to look at something in the markets. So you'll end up with a list like this. And I've sorted this list. Remember last week I said that in order to sort by any column, you just click in the header of the column. So one click gives you a sort in ascending order. Clicking again gives you a sort in descending order. So I've clicked on the week to date column. So I'm just scanning the whole market, the whole US market, week to date, to find out what stock moved the most right now in the up direction last week. Now we could ignore the first one because I know that the split happened there, and that's going to be taken into account in the next update of the data. And then you can kind of just scroll down through the list and see, and we can see SMED. That's a real move, but it does look like a buyout. But it's interesting just to go down through here and get a sense of what's moving, and maybe have some kind of an idea as to why they're moving. And if you see patterns, that I find it very useful actually to take a look at these and see patterns. If you do this every day, you can kind of glean some information about price behavior. So these are quite large moves, 105% here in Rhythm Pharmaceuticals. It's if you were watching the market during the week, day by day, this probably popped up on your list somewhere. This Target Hospitality probably popped up. That was going every day last week, very strong. You see the volume down here too. So this is a very useful template to run every day. What is interesting here is I find as you come down through this list and you see things that have had large volume or large up moves on low volume or large volume, it's always tempting to think that this is the start of a move. All right, that's a very tempting thing to believe. And if a stock has come off of some highs, some prior highs, it's really tempting to think that potentially the stock could make it back to those highs. Now, in research that I've done, I'm pretty confident that it's actually quite difficult for a stock to make it back to previous highs. But when they've fallen such a huge distance, it actually is possible for stocks to move quite a lot. So it doesn't take a lot for this stock to move 100%, for instance. It's coming down from off of a 0.3, 30-cent price, and it doesn't take much for it to move to 60 cents, which is a 100% move. It's a very, very low price stock. But one thing I like to do here to kind of verify these things, one thing you could do here is add everything here to a watch list, and then during the week, go and look at your watch list and see how they've moved. but obviously that's going to take a long time because you have to wait for the market to close every day. And then next weekend, you'll have your answer to this particular question. But the question of what's going to happen after this move. So one thing that's quite useful to do in the program is obviously when you've run this template, it is saved in the reports directory that we talked about. So you could actually, here's the reports folder, documents, EdgeRater reports. And so every time you run a template, it's saved in here. So you could call this back up next weekend and take a look at the moves that occurred during the week. And to load it, all you would do is you click on open in the reports tab, and then you can open any report that you've previously run. But another way of kind of cheating with this is if you didn't save the report, you can run the report for a specific day. So you go to back into the templates tab, and you come up to the menu, and there's the option to choose a date for the report to run. So I could run it for last Friday, the 8th, July the 8th. I've already done that, so I'll show you. But if I did choose that date and hit run, it would then go ahead and generate a report for that Friday. And here's the report for that Friday. So now by sorting this list, all right, by week today, we actually now are looking at last week's big moves. And if we make sure that annotations are turned on the chart, then the chart will actually point to the day that the report was run for, not run on, but run for, okay, which is the 8th. So now it's also positioned it to the very right-hand side of the chart. So this is just like running it on the day. It shows you everything that you would see, that you would have seen on July the 8th. But there, now you can obviously answer the question a lot easier as to what happened to those stocks that had huge moves during the week, because you can just play this chart forward. And if you do this on a regular basis, you get a very good sense of how stocks tend to move after big moves, or not even after big moves, but any template that you run that has consistent rules in technical criteria, you can see how the stocks behave after those rules have been met. So it's a very handy thing to do. What you'll find by going down through in this particular case, when we're looking at big moves, you'll find that those moves tend to be sold most of the time. There are moves that do persist, but for the most part, they tend to be sold off. So buying, at least to kind of a general idea, that buying stocks that have huge moves in one week, if you buy them the following week, that might not be the best thing to do. You'll find the odd stock that does make huge moves afterwards. But for instance, you'll also find things like this, HGEN, that had a huge move last week up to $3. And now this week it's down to 50 cents. Okay, so that is quite a big loss. It doesn't take many losses like that to really put a dent in an account, and you need some pretty big gainers in order to make up for that. So far we haven't really seen a big winner this week that also was a big mover in the prior week, but there will be some, just not that many. But so for instance, here's one. I wouldn't say this was a big winner. This is a winner of went from $15 at the close of last week to $15.80. So massive move last week, 66%, and not such a big move this week. Now what you can do is take your 7:15 run and just drag it like we did last week to an area below here, so that now as I'm looking at any of these stocks, that stock will be brought to the top of every report that's open. So now I can actually see that, it was a 66% weekly gainer on the 8th of July. And then this week, it was a 5% gainer. So not very high there. Here you go, 65% gainer on the 8th of July, week ending 8th of July, and a negative 28% this week, and so on. As you go down through the list, you can just keep an eye on it's always going to bring the stock that you've clicked on to the top of every report. Now, this leads to another idea for viewing reports, and that's the idea of, you see what I'm doing here is I'm trying to get a sense of if there's been a big move one week, what tends to happen the following week. And by all I'm doing to get a sense of that is clicking on the stock and then looking at the report below. But an easier way to do that would be to copy, say, this week to date column here from this Friday, copy that into this report here, put it right next to this week to date column here, and then I'll have an immediate reading of what the percentage gain is this week compared to last week. So one way to do, well, the way to do that is to go to the report. You can do this on any report. Now, you'll notice on this report, you can't see the A, B, C, D on the headers or the row numbers. So in order to do that, you have to say display headings. All right, now, once you can see these A, B, C, D, E, F for the columns and the row numbers, you can click on the column you want to copy, say column G in this case. And this is the week to date column. You can say copy column up in the menu, and then come up to this top report that I want to copy the information into, make sure it's selected, and you also have to say display headings in here. And then I want to add it into, I'll say before column H. So I'll click on column H and I'll say insert copied column. And you see what that's done? It's inserted the column from below. Even if they were in different orders, it doesn't matter. It's going to match up the symbols to make sure that the data goes into the correct row. And so, so now all I have to do in order to see what the move was this week, because remember, I've copied in the 15th, which is this week's move, into column H. And this report in the top area was run for the 8th, which was last Friday's report. Okay, in order to make that clearer, I might want to just type the heading in that I'm looking at. So, because these both say week to date or WTD, I could just select that, allow editing. That's another option in the menu here. Once I've allowed editing on a report, I can type anything I like into here. So I could say that this is 7/15 week to date. So now I know exactly what's going on there. Okay, and now it's very easy then to sort by week to date on 7/8, and then I can just look across and I can see immediately. So the big moves that happened on 7/8, 161%, 133%, 117%. Most of them had negative moves this week. A couple that had positive moves. We can look at those. Yeah, there's one had a big negative move. We've seen that one already, HGEN. But just by scanning down through the columns, through the rows, we can immediately get a feel for what tends to happen, or at least what happened between last week and this week. And if you do this on a regular basis, it helps with understanding what happens, or what tends to happen over a period of time with stocks that make huge moves. So then, rather than get really excited about moves like big moves that happen this week, you can have good knowledge that most of the time those moves tend to be sold off the following week. Sometimes you get real continuations. And I think last week we talked about this stock here. We actually saw this as a big weekly move, and I said let's put this on a favorites list just to keep an eye on it. And this one did go on to make higher highs. But as I say, most of the time they tend not to. And then you can do also the opposite of that and find out with stocks that have made, say, big losses week to date. Okay, so now I'm looking at July the 8th, the stocks that had the most loss on July the 8th. And then I can just scan across and see what happened last week. So you had a negative 41%, and then a minus 4% this week, negative 35% the week before, minus 5%, negative 29%, minus 15. So it doesn't even work the other way, where stocks that have had huge sell-offs will tend to rebound. Some of them do, but here you can see a lot of the time they sell off even more. And this is in the context of the market action this week, which has been pretty much, well, we can actually see what that is just by searching for SPY. So if I just do a Control F while I have my report selected, I can search for anything I like, and I'll search for SPY. So SPY D, I don't want that. I'll look for, there's A SPY, SPY, B SPY, S SPY, R SPY, SPY C. There we go, SPY. Okay, so SPY, last week, not last week, the week before last, so the 8th of July had a 2% move up. Last week you have had a 1% move down. So this is the action in SPY last week. If you were watching the market, you saw that we sold off, and then we had a bounce on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Okay, so in the context of that, all of these, you can see what's happened with all of these other stocks as well. So it's not like the market was tanking last week. It was volatile for sure, but it wasn't tanking. And SPY is now only down 1% from last a week ago. And yet the stocks that have made these huge moves up or down have, you can see the results right here. But this is something that's really interesting to do. And you can do this with any of your favorite scans. If you have a particular technique that you like to trade, or that you've heard people talking about certain indicators. I see it all the time. They come in my email almost daily. Somebody has a not even a brand new indicator, it seems, but a magical indicator, which turns out to be just a regular old indicator used in a slightly different way, and apparently it predicts price. All you have to do is look at it week by week and verify for yourself. And that's without even going into the backtesting side of EdgeRater, which we'll get into next week. Okay, so that's a great technique. It shows a couple of features. Let me just review what those features are that are useful for looking at any reports. The first one is viewing reports top and bottom, so stacking the reports by dragging them around. The second one we looked at was being able to copy a column from one report to another report. And the third one was allowing editing in any report so that you can type any information you want in any of the cells. And once you've saved that report, so I'll just save this report here. That does appear in the reports folder. And last week, I wasn't able to show you because I didn't have Excel installed on my system last week, but I do have it installed now. And so you can see that this is GBU-AU7822. Okay, so this one here. I can open this up in Excel. So now this is completely outside of EdgeRater, but it's exactly what was updated in the report. So it's got that updated header there, 7/15 week to date. And you can do all the sorting and filtering also in Excel, but obviously it's not linked to charts, but it serves as a good record of the reports that the templates that you've run and the reports that you've looked at. So that's a good thing to know. Okay, so a few good techniques there. Now, there are some templates that are, so the good, bad, ugly is just really a percent price change over various periods. A template that's very interesting to run is this 220 EMA upside breakout system. This you'll find in a category called technical analysis of stocks and commodities. You'll find it over here. There's a few templates in there, but the 220 EMA upside breakout system is a trading system that was written about in that magazine. And there's a link to the article here. If you want to read the article, they do have a paywall for that. So you actually have to, you either have to be a subscriber to the magazine, or you can purchase individual articles. You could do that. But also, if you click on template info, when you have this template showing, it's going to open up any information that has been written about by EdgeRater. So it's bringing you to the EdgeRater blog, and it's talking about the 220 EMA upside breakout system. So references the article, shows you where you can buy the article if you want to buy it from Task magazine, Stocks and Commodities magazine. But then I also have shown some information here about some testing that I've done and how you can use the template, a description of how to use the template in EdgeRater. So what is this system? This is something I do like to run regularly, because it really is impossible for a stock to make a trending move without it first appearing in this template. It's guaranteed that you're going to find it in this template if it's going to make a trending move. So if you're a trend trader, that's a great thing to know. What it does, the 220 is not what most people think. It's not a crossover of the 2 and the 20 period moving average. Instead, it is when there are 2 clear bars above the 20 period moving average. That creates a buy alert. And then it takes, in order for that entry to fire, and that is a real signal to go to your broker and place a trade when price, after these 2 bars that are completely above the 20, so not crossing the 20 at all, completely above, 10 cents above the high of the highest one of those bars, that's your entry point. And as it says here, place a stop 10 cents above the buy alert, 2-day high. And here's another example in here. And then exits at the 20 EMA. Now you can see you might give up a lot in here, but that's not really the point. We'll talk a bit next week about doing some back testing using some of the scripts, and we have scripts in the program that will allow you to test this particular system on any list of stocks. So that's something you can definitely try. But the real beauty of this template, I find, is not to go and place buy everything that appears in the list, but it really narrows down your list to show you what is trending and early in the trend as well. And I'll show some examples of that right now. Okay, so 220 EMA breakout system. I will run this on my list of CBOE weeklies. And all you have to do there is press run. Doesn't take very long to run this template if it's just a small list of 600 stocks. And I'll remove the report below just to give us a bit more screen real estate. And I'll also remove these other 2 reports so we're not confused. There we go. Okay, so this template has a link to a particular layout, a charting layout. And the layout is the 20 EMA, which is the red line, the 50 EMA, just because everyone watches the 50 EMA, or sorry, the 50 simple moving average. So yeah, everyone watches the 50 period simple moving average. And then below there's a indicator, which is basically when this system is in a trade. You'll see this blue line go to a 1 value when the system's in a trade. The template, or the report produced by the template, has a lot of information in here. So it'll tell you what, well, the status of every stock in your list, whether it's currently in a trade based on this system, whether that, and let me zoom in a little bit here so you can see that a bit better. Whether that trade was entered today or exited today, always interesting to know. If it's not in a trade, maybe it has a buy alert. So it's got those 2 bars above the 20 and it's just waiting for the price to move 10 cents above. And in which case you'll have the has alert will be true and it will tell you where the stop, the entry stop is as well. And then if it's currently in a trade, it'll have information about the open trade. So the date that the trade was entered, the entry price, the number of bars currently in the trade, the stop, which is based on the 20 EMA, and the current dollar gain and current percentage gain. So you can see that the top of the list is sorted, by the way, by when you first run the report, it's automatically sorted, bringing to the top of the list the stocks that are currently in a trade that have the highest percentage gain. So EDU, and I remember looking at EDU actually some time ago back here. I did see this appear on this list. But yeah, this has gone on to make a 61% gain since the entry was fired. So not since the buy alert, but since the actual entry. So the good thing about this report is it keeps everything on the list. It's not just looking at what's happening today and telling you if there's a buy, if there's a buy today. It's everything that's currently in an open trade based on this system. So basically everything that's trending is on this list. I said that without really thinking about it. It's possible that it could have been. I think generally that's true. Anything that's currently trending should be on this list, and we may find exceptions to that as we go along. but I think that that's true. Okay, so then we go down through this. First of all, let's go back to the EDU thing. Why did it trigger an entry? Let's just be clear. So price down here, the red line is your 20-period EMA. Now price crossed above the 20-period EMA here. So you've got 1 bar, 2 bars completely clear of the 20. And now the entry should be at the high of this bar, 10 cents above that. So the entry would have been on this bar here. That's confirmed if you look down at the blue line. That was a 1 value on that day, the 6th of June, 22. Also confirmed up here in the report, 6th of June. And then it's just holding in this trade until price crosses below the 20 EMA. Okay, so it hasn't violated yet. So still looking okay. You'll find some huge winners in this list as you go and look through this on a regular basis. So this is really a key template, I think. Yeah, we'll just go down through the list. Have a quick look. All right, remember last week we looked at this. Turns out now that FFIE, so this is the first bar that was completely above the 20 EMA. This is the second bar, 10 cents above this high would have been here. So this trade would have entered on Thursday and still be in on Friday. This is problematic potentially because it's already made a huge move from here to here. And it's just because the first bar that was completely above the 20 EMA was a very wide-ranging bar. And it just set the actual entry kind of quite high. So because its price is so far away from the 20 EMA, it's hard to have good risk reward set into that trade. But you may have other ways of figuring out risk and reward and may find good entries there. Okay, so here's SRNE. Again, you've got 2 bars that are completely above. Sorry, where does that start? So the first bar is actually this bar here that I'm pointing at, even though it's quite close to the 20 EMA, it is completely above. And then the second bar was this bar. And then the entry bar would have been this bar here. So this trade has not been a straight up trade. It was a pullback. It did not violate the 20. And now it's moving again. So it's a great, well, currently a 12.5% gain, which is not too shabby. Also, don't forget that this has been run on the list of stocks that have weekly options. And so if you are using option strategies with this, then your returns will not just be the percentages that are shown here. Now, if you're interested in what those returns will be, could have been, don't forget the templates. That is a real bonus to the software here. It's the performance between dates under options analysis. I always like to have that one open because it's always interesting to see what the options would have done in certain cases. So I always just run that using the default settings. And then in order to see what options have done on a particular stock and a particular time period, just draw a line on the chart. So I'll go back to top of this list here. We'll look at some of these gains here. Let's take EDU, for example. Well, let's draw a line here from this bar to this bar. All right. I could have drawn it on the chart, but I just chose to draw it down here. It doesn't really matter. And then my template will actually, let's put that in the area below. Okay, so we can see that the stock itself had a 61% gain. Here it's saying there's a 58% gain. And the reason is just on the time stamp when the options data was taken. And normally that's about 15 minutes prior to the close of the market. Whereas this close price here is the actual close of the market. So it's going to be slightly off. Nevertheless, it shows you that a lot of the options made some really good money. And the most was the 0.2 delta at the 39 days to expiration, which had a nice gain of, let's just bring that over here. The 0.2 delta had a nice gain of 828%. Now we'll come down to some more of these. We'll look at LI. So you could, let's take this as a entry here. And I'm just going to draw the line on the chart this time. And now you've got here with the 43 day to expiration, again, the 0.2 delta option, 900% gain. The stock itself made 47%. You could see that also here, 46%. The underlying made 46%, but the options did much better. Okay, let's just go down through the list a bit. JDST. So yeah, gold has not been performing. I think that a lot of people were bullish on gold, and it's just not been great to be in gold. But JDST is your junior gold inverse. So your inverse junior gold miners inverse 2x. So let's take a look at that. We'll draw our line from, make it from here to here. Okay, you had a potential for 600% gain if you had the 22 day to expiration option. And this really, you may have seen this before, but it takes every single option that's available in every single expiration, and it takes every delta at a 0.1 level. So a 0.5 delta option is an option that's at the money. 0.5 delta is essentially a call option at the money. A negative 0.5 delta is a put option that's at the money. And this will actually go to real data, real traded data, and show the gains and losses in each of those options over the time frame that you've drawn. So that's quite nice. Okay. I can't see a question here. There's a value in the number of bars in trade on the prior trade portion. Prior trade. Okay, so you're looking over at prior trade. Okay, so I've got a value here in SRNE as well. Yep. That probably means there was no prior trade in SRNE. Let's click on SRNE. And if we go all through the data, yeah, the last trade over there was way over here. And I believe that this report, if I just take a quick peek at the parameters, has a look back of 252, which is 1 year. So it's only showing you if that last trade was within a year. And this trade was actually over a year ago. So it didn't have a last trade. But it brings up a good point in that there is this other set of columns here. Let me show those. So we have the green columns, which are the current trades. And then there's just this, there's this blue set of columns. So then the reason that I put this in was because if a trade is a current open trade and then it gets sold, so it's no longer an open trade, it's removed from the open trade list and you don't get to see what the results are. You only get to really see the results of the open trades. So prior trades are good because you can see the actual, the closed trades of all of the trades. You'll find a lot of these actually were small percentage losing trades. That's kind of the nature of this system. And we'll see more about that when we go into looking at back testing these results. But as I say, the most important thing of this template for me is to find stocks or to not miss stocks that are starting to trend. Okay, any other questions on this 220 EMA? Okay, we'll take a look at, go back into my favorites. And I think we'll go, I haven't done this for a while, even though this is really for new people. I keep it interesting for anyone who's been with EdgeRater for a while. I haven't really looked at the Guppy multiple moving average template for a while. So this will give us a good example of a different set of rules. And now if you read Darryl Guppy's book on trend trading, and there's a link to the book in the template. Also, don't forget when you run the template, I'm going to run this on my CBOE weeklies list again. Okay. You can click on more info. If there is more info, then you'll go to the page containing more info. So this talks more about the information in the book without giving away what's, all of the real nitty-gritty of the book. For that, you should definitely read the book. But it kind of synthesizes some information and shows what the template is actually trying to achieve. So this is an interesting technique of multiple moving averages. You see the chart's now switched over to a multiple moving average chart. And so the idea is that there's a set of longer period moving averages, which are the black lines here. And these are more your longer term traders, or in the book, they're called the investors. And whereas the blue lines, the blue moving average lines, are shorter period, and these are the group of trade represent the group of traders. That's the idea in the book. So whenever it's talking about traders are above investors, or investors are above traders, or the separation between traders and investors, it's talking about these shorter moving averages for traders and the longer moving averages for investors. And then you've got various cases. A bullish case, which is, I guess, what we'll look at. The bullish case is a stock in a persistent uptrend. Is there a pullback within the uptrend? Is the group of traders, i.e. all the blue lines, are they all above the black lines? So traders above investors? Yes, in this case. Are the investors aligned, i.e. do you have this fanning out? So you don't have a mismatch where when you've got moving averages, sometimes the longer periods can be below or above the shorter periods, but a natural place is for shorter, in an uptrend, for shorter time frame moving averages to be above longer time frame moving averages. So that's just talking about whether they're aligned here. Investors are aligned, traders are aligned, and then there's a separation between the trader investor group of 0.8%. So again, this is trend trading, and the charts here, can be quite considered to be quite nice, because once a move is made, let's have a look. At the top of the list, you've got ABBV, and so I've currently got this little call out on. I'll turn that off just to clear up the screen. I know we're looking at the very last bar. This report was run for Friday, so I don't need to have that one. Okay, so now you have a very clear bar that's occurred above the shortest period of the trader group of moving averages. So that's an interesting signal in a stock that has had this sell-off. There's potential here for turnaround in ABBV. It's in an uptrend. Traders are above investors. Investors are aligned, traders are aligned, and there's a separation of 0.8%. So that's how you'd read that. We'll go down through this list. Just take a quick scan at some of these. So Amgen, you see ASO, AstraZeneca, AutoZone. AutoZone is very interesting because it really is almost, let me just get a bigger picture of AutoZone. There we go. So that is not following the market at all. It's almost at 52-week highs. So it's definitely bucking the trend of the market, where the S&P 500 is in bear market territory. And even though AutoZone had challenges, it's now in the coming back up to 52-week highs. So that's interesting. So these are very quick ways of finding stocks that can be interesting, rather than having to look through 600 stocks in this particular list or 8,000 stocks in the market. You can quickly bring up your favorite template and quickly run a scan. It's really the purpose of this webinar really is not to recommend any trading strategy, but showing how you can use templates and what the templates can do specifically for their specific cases. So for instance, I don't personally recommend that you follow the Task Magazine article or Guppy here with the trend trading. It's just what they talk about in their articles, and these templates are trying to pick out the things that are being discussed. And so if you are a follower, and it's recommended, I've heard it said many times, that if you are trading, you really should focus on one particular style of trading and not be jumping about all over the place. Even though there are over 100 templates in EdgeRater, you probably have a style of trading that you are pursuing. And you should focus on that. And these templates and reports will help with that, particularly with the whole idea of being able to run a template for any prior period in history, so that you can test your look at markets and stocks in the context of particular strategies on any date, and you can play that forward to see what happened next in all of those cases, and also in the context of the general market moves. For instance, the crash in the COVID crash, for instance, and the rebound, and now in the context of the current bear market. So, but I think this is I actually quite like the chart on here, because once the stock actually clears these lines, it becomes the bars are actually above, and it becomes quite clear. Here, this stock CRSP almost cleared, these lines, but you can see that the investor and trader group were in conflict with each other and all muddled. And then they got clear again down here when there was more of a sell-off. Then they became muddled here, and they're starting to align themselves again here. So I do find these charts to be quite good. We have 5 minutes left. I just want to see if there are any questions on anything I've talked about, and I'll see if I can look at, just make sure there's questions in the chats or in the Q&A. I'll look at both. Okay, great. That seems good. So that's pleasing. It's a good question. I'll answer that in a minute, Larry. Yeah, good. Okay, if there's anything, so just out of interest, out of the templates that I talked about, which are the 220 EMA, the Guppy template, good, bad, ugly template, and options performance between dates, any one of those in particular that you find that you think that you will use and investigate a little further, let me know. Cool. Great. Yeah. So people are interested in the 220, definitely. The options between dates, which I think that's some powerful information in there for sure. And Guppy, absolutely. Good. There is Garner, there is a tutorial. Go to the YouTube page in EdgeRater. Go to the EdgeRater page on YouTube.com/EdgeRater, and do a search on the EdgeRater channel for template. And there is something there on creating your own templates. I will do a webinar on creating your own templates in the very near future as well, just to update that. Now, there was a question earlier. Chart window is separate from the main EdgeRater window. How do you fix that? Okay, so what can happen with the chart window? It is possible to detach it by dragging it over. You see now I've got this separate. That allows me to put that on a separate screen if I want to. If I have multiple monitors, I might want this on a separate screen to get more real estate. To put it back into the main window, just double click on the header bar, the title bar, drag it around and drop it into the right-hand icon. Okay, and then it will appear in there. That's how you put that back. Okay, there's a question about, yeah, so the symbol lists are updated. Yeah, I can see. So there are some, the main lists that get a lot of attention are the All USA list and the CBOE Weeklies list. And then on a less regular basis, these other lists, the S&P 1500 is kept up to date. But I understand that there are some lists that haven't been updated in a while. So yes, for instance, FB is listed instead of Meta. Okay, so we just need to update. We just need to go through and make sure all of these lists are up to date to give them a refresh. Then what will happen is next time you do get latest data, you'll have the latest components. Options for large icons. Okay. I see what you're saying. When you said options, I thought you were talking about trading options, but no, you're talking about options in the software for larger icons. Okay. Yeah, Larry, let's do that again. So you're on the reports viewer tab, and your chart is detached, I'm assuming. Now it's possible you have a different chart showing, because there is another chart, but try this. Come to the reports viewer tab, go up to the chart menu where it says show and hide, and toggle that on and off a little bit. Just make sure we're looking at the same chart. Yep. So if you're looking at the reports viewer chart, that's the one that toggles on and off when you press this show button. Then you can grab the title bar of that, and when you start dragging it around, you should see some icons appear, and it allows you to drop it in various places. I just drag it over the right-hand one. I don't know if you can see if that shows up on. Yeah, you can see that on the video, and then I drop it over on the right-hand side. I hope that works. Okay, great. I think we'll call it here. And thank you for coming to this webinar on a Saturday morning. Wish you a great weekend and good trading next week. And see you next weekend. Okay, bye for now.